to Theater One, everyone. Let me introduce, we have Ravi and Bhaskar from Persistent Systems. They're going to be talking about accelerating business models with generative AI. Please give a warm welcome to Ravi and Bhaskar.
Thank you. So we are going to be talking about Gen AI and use cases, how it can be leveraged in the enterprise. Now we are at an inflection point in our use of technology where some things are profound. And I have my customer, my friend Bhaskar here, who's been an early adopter of Gen AI in one of their use cases. And I'm from Persistent, I lead the cloud practice. And we are about 30 plus years old, 23,000 employees worldwide, 20 plus locations. We do enterprise and digital transformation for our customers. Cloud is one of the work we do. And in terms of the opportunity that we have at hand, Gartner has surveyed the CXOs. 1,700 plus CXOs have said they're exploring use cases related to Gen AI and the use of them in the enterprise. And about 450 of them have gone beyond just exploring. They are putting things into production or in pilot. And I can see in terms of the revenue volume that at stake, between $2.5 to $4.5 trillion of business impact, additional revenue, additional economic activity is what we are looking at in the future. So coming to the crux of this discussion, how does a CTO, CXO leverage Gen AI? Starting with kind of providing clarity for the organization, right? You lay out the foundation, you kind of describe the North Star for the organization for use of Gen AI. Obviously it has to be ethical, it has to be legal, it has to be secure, and all that. So providing clarity for your team helps the team to go forward with the approaches. Then identifying some hard-hitting use cases, whether it's improving your developer productivity, improving certain business flows, or a combination of all of those, or discovering new things. If you're a pharma company, discovering new molecules, for example. And therefore, having identified use cases, what does it mean for the technology landscape? Whether it's the way you develop products, the way you maintain your infrastructure, IT operations, all of that is going to be impacted. So therefore, having an idea of how that is going to be impacted and getting ready and readying your people is going to be an aspect that's important. And then getting into how do we get started, right? Exploring already solutions out there. There is a lot of open source stuff out there. There's things coming on a daily basis. And if some of you have been in the keynote session this morning, there are a lot of exciting things that were announced. And so leveraging those, I think we are going incrementally in a rapid manner, going from a single agent to multiple agents collaborating and delivering more value at a faster pace. So all of that is an exciting landscape. So what that means is you can do some exploration for free, and you can work with hyperscalers like AWS to explore options that they are making, enhanced level of access, either free or in collaboration with partners like us, Persistent, that there are pre-approved funding for exploring and doing POCs. And then comes the upgrading the landscape, your enterprise strategy, technology strategy has to be looked at and see, if you are modern, API-driven, you are in a much better shape. Otherwise, is to be able to look at your legacy stack and see how you can bring the data together, how you can develop models that will be meaningful for you and help you be more productive and do more with less, right? And then data. Data is a lifeblood for anything that's surrounding the Gen AI usage. So therefore, a combination of the enterprise technology stack and your data landscape and a data strategy is going to be critical in enabling the use of Gen AI. And then in terms of the teams, right? You know the North Star for your use of Gen AI. You have ways of exploring it. Now, who is going to do it, right? Sometimes you may be in a situation where, hey, we don't have anybody that's currently, upskilled in terms of Gen AI and how to use it. But obviously, if you can put together a cross-functional team that's able to collaborate with hyperscalers and partners like us, and take care of the technology aspects of it, but there are the ethical, legal, and security aspects of it that you need a cross-functional team to be coming up to speed, learning at the same time as you are exploring, to be able to use it appropriately. And then in parallel, come up with a upskilling and training plan for your team, because this is going to be a big part of your future approach to developing, releasing, and enhancing your products, or even coming up with new products, right? So upskilling your team is critical. And then what is the risk of it, right? We hear somebody suing somebody else, and you used our data without our permission, things like that. So being able to be aware of the risk and cover for it is also going to be critical. So at this point, I will turn it over to Bhaskar, who is the VP and CTO of Blast Motion. He will take us through the case study that he has implemented.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Bhaskar Bose. I'm the Vice President of Advanced Engineering at Blast Motion. Blast Motion is an information company. We're primarily in the sports market. We put sensors on sports equipment, and our mission is to optimize human movement. And so we provide sensors that go on baseball bats and golf clubs, and then we have mobile apps, and we push all the data up to the cloud, and then we provide insights to our users. So, one of the key foundations for us is performance evaluation. So athletes, coaches, and parents can look at the information that we're providing and make decisions on training programs, as well as recruiting decisions and things on how to get better. All this training is personalized because we're able to collect large amounts of data sets on the functional movement of a swing. We can provide individualized, actionable insights for the individual. So in the past, what coaches would have to do is they would have to give training sessions by groups of players based on age or their particular height and weight and their performance. But now we can individualize that to the player because of the amount of data and insights that we have. We've been working with Persistence since 2017, but recently we've been working with them to modernize our platform. So we're working with them to modernize our platform, but then also to integrate AI into our full solution. So all our next generation mobile apps are going to be AI driven, and then insights coming from all the data that's stored in the cloud. Another aspect of this is that we're transforming the way sports equipment manufacturers interact with the customer. So we're creating a one-to-one digital tether between the end user and the OEM manufacturer. So this is truly transformational because currently there's not really a good link between the user and the equipment manufacturer. Now, we have over 300 million swings that we've been collecting over a decade. So we have data on players that were 8 years old that are now 18, and players that are 18 years old and now 28. So all that data is a closed system that we're using to train our AI models. And so we have high quality data, and then we have a team of biomechanists that are used to train the Gen AI models. What's amazing about these new generative AI models is how quickly they learn. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So the key technologies that we're using is Amazon Bedrock and the Titan models. We're also using deep learning, machine learning to basically look at our data and get insights from it. A key part of our data is that we are collecting all the three-dimensional swing data from the start of the swing to the ball contact, so we have time series analysis, and then also lang chain to look at basically how we interact with the user. So 3 primary questions that all our users ask is, what do the metrics mean? Where do I stand in relation to other players in my age group, and then how do I get better? So that's where we are integrating with Amazon, the Bedrock and Titan models to provide those kinds of guided journey for the users.
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
So thanks Bhaskar for that. So he's been one of our early adopters and Persistent as a tier 1 or premier partner with AWS, and also having an SCA strategic collaboration agreement with AWS. We had early access to a lot of what AWS was releasing. So we worked with Blast to kind of implement, do a pilot, and then eventually put into production that particular use case. So as I mentioned, as a premier partner, we have access to a lot of funding, and we, if any of you were in the keynote session this morning, we were mentioned as one of the partners, go-to partners for GenAI working with AWS, Persistent Systems, right? So what that means is we will have early access. I mean, a lot of things were generally available as per this morning's announcements, but some things are still in preview or early access. So we had early access to a lot of the tools like Code Whisperer, which we rolled out to 16,000 developers within Persistent. Other models like Titan and others, before they were GA, we had early access, so which means we had hands-on experience with implementing or doing pilots or POCs. Right now we have about 60 POCs or pilots going on with multiple different customers in different industries. And we can do that because we have not only early access to the products, we have access to pre-approved funding for POCs and pilots. So if you are in a situation where I wish I could do a POC or a pilot on a certain use cases, you can partner with us. These funds are available if you are working with a partner like Persistent. So not to belabor the point, we can definitely execute on multiple different use cases in different industries if you partner with us and AWS, obviously. And we have predefined adoption frameworks that we can use in customer engagements, kind of in a rinse and repeat manner. What that means is we've already executed on these pilots or POCs with other customers, or they're in flight. So starting with digital assistants for enterprise search, imagine being able to bring together your own corpus of data, whether it's structured or unstructured data, to create a foundation model and being able to provide that to your end users within the enterprise for querying and preparing reports or insights based on your own reports in a generative AI context. And that helps you automate some manual processes if you're constantly preparing reports or even presentations. You can purpose this digital assistant for those kind of scenarios. AI-assisted pair programming. So this is a very interesting thing. So with Code Whisperer, we have built a layer on top of it as well. Sometimes it's not just enough to develop code. You want to be able to generate tests. You want to be able to generate APIs. You want to be able to generate data schemas, and then automated testing. So we can do all of that with AI-assisted, pair programming context, which generates program code snippets for you. We can train you and your developers to use that. There is a product name called WinMate that we provide to our customers, which is, you can think of it as a Code Whisperer plus, built on Code Whisperer, obviously. And you want all of this happen in a governance kind of a context where you are not bringing code from outside that is not pre-approved. And you also want to be able to track the productivity gains, right? We have run a pilot within Persistent on live projects with about 400 plus developers. We have seen 40 plus percentage improvement in productivity. So it can be even better than that if you are using all those features. So being able to track the metrics, instrument them, and over time see how the productivity gains are happening will be interesting to see if this is something good to continue with and improve and get to between 40 to 50, but 2x, 3x kind of gains in productivity. That's not out of the realm of possibility. Going on to accelerated legacy modernizations, a lot of our customers are grappling with hundreds of apps that are legacy in nature or outdated in terms of Java, .NET, tech stack that we want to go to the latest for security reasons and end user usability reasons. Front end is a little bit clunky and you want to modernize it. We can make all of that happen. And without naming, I mentioned a healthcare customer, we try to envision with them how the art of the possibility in modernizing hundreds of apps, and they were skeptical. We took one application of theirs in a matter of 2 weeks. We turned it around and showed them what is possible. Going from Ruby on Rails to React, JS, and modern front end, and they were surprised and impressed, and they were given us a $200K contract to take 20 of their apps to put it through the same process and modernize. And they have hundreds of apps like that to modernize. So we can accelerate your modernization, stay on-prem, or in the same process, go to cloud, right? To go leverage on AWS, cloud-native services, serverless, or containerized as you are refactoring the code. So that's what is possible, and that could save you 2x, 3x in terms of timeline, in terms of investment that you require, and then going on to industry-specific business line use cases. So if you are in a particular industry vertical, we can work with you. We are already, I mentioned to you, healthcare case study. We are working with banking customers and other verticals, telecom included. We can go dig deeper into your particular case study or use case and come up with the art of the possible and take you through a pilot or a POC and then on to kind of rinse and repeat that for if you have a large portfolio of applications or landscape to tackle, or just the plain old developer use case from end to end, being able to develop, test, and deploy code in an enhanced and more rapid and better quality. We can help make that happen. So if there are any questions, we'll be available for a few more minutes here. Thank you for your time, and look forward to some of you coming back to us and working with us.